Okay, we are now live, so just be aware of your language because people can watch and this is recorded. So we are at committee meetings, so let's just make sure we take a roll of who's here. So I'm Owen, I'm here as chair. Who else is here? Jen, do you want to introduce?
Yes. Hello, I'm Jen. I am a committee member and ran the conference that happened recently. That's me.
I'm Stevie. I'm a committee member.
Still there?
Yes, I can hear you now, Samson.
Hi, Samson, committee member, secretary.
Great. So I think we have a technical quorum, so there are 4 of us. So we don't actually have an official agenda as far as I'm aware. There are a few things that we have identified that we'd like to talk about. So initially, I'll ask Jen just to give us a brief overview of where we're at for running a JSCOM. Thank you for the link. That's what I was waiting. I was trying to type in somewhere. So do you want to give me or give us an overview of JSCOM for next year?
So this is a follow-on from last month where we said the idea was to try and rotate it round and that we had some documentation and an application process for people to say that they were interested to put their hands up to run the conference. I've informally heard that there are some folks in Auckland that are quite keen, but in terms of formal actions, the deadline for the application has closed and we didn't get any responses. I had one person contact me to say that they were considering it and got to the day of the deadline and were about to fill it in and looked through the docs and decided it was maybe a bit too much of a set format. Like they wanted a bit more flexibility to be able to do their own thing, which is good feedback. And I encourage that person to reach out with some more specific things because although in the documentation I wrote that there were some things that were, higher value in terms of keeping them the same as compared to other stuff, everything can be negotiated. So I was sort of waiting for some more feedback from that person, but haven't heard anything. So right now I'm in the situation whereby I feel like I'd need to reach out and do some shoulder tapping really to get to some people to step up. I'm not sure how I feel about that personally. I'm bad at delegating in the first place, and it's a lot of responsibility to put onto somebody. If they then later have a bad time with it, is that then my fault? So yeah, I am open to any suggestions, but I do have one backup option that I'm contemplating. But before I get to that, I'm interested to know if any of the rest of you have any thoughts.
So I have a question for you, Jen. Would it be worth, and this is kind of spitballing, and I just want honest feedback, would it be worth us or you, as in you've run it before, running one more so that we've got a series of 2 rather than a series of 1 that makes people a bit more confident about the format, in your opinion?
Potentially. In light of that, I will go straight to the backup option, which is to say that I wouldn't mind running it again if it was or even in an ongoing sense, if it was every other year. But that's food for thought, that running one more might be a bit more format establishing. Yeah, I think I would have to go away and have a think about that. Any other suggestions from anybody?
I think it is tough because it is such a big commitment. It's hard to be able to actually run those. Like the amount of work which obviously you had to put into that is a daunting prospect for anybody. And now that we've run it once, you've told everybody how much work it was, which may have been detrimental to people stepping up. But I think that it's worth leaving it at, even though the deadline has closed, and like you say, reaching out to those people who have come back and said that they were at least interested in talking through it with them about what the what the deal breakers were there for them.
Yeah, so how about I'll leave it as an open issue for next month. I will go into the Auckland chat room on the Slack channel and prod some people and see what falls out of the tree. I maybe need to do a little write-up to say, look, although this is a lot of work, some of the harder stuff is done now. I mean, there's a lot of logistic stuff that would vary from venue to venue, but in terms of like advertising, there is a lot less work to do for next year's. Yeah, I think I could pull something together that will talk about what kind of commitment you would need. My company has a monthly pizza tech talk thing, and I did a presentation at it this week, funnily enough, so this is on my mind, about running a conference, and I totaled up some of the hours that it took me to run the conference, and it was 6 days of annual leave and about 60 hours, and then a couple of maybe 3 or 4 weekends. So that's quite a lot of work, especially for somebody with a family. That's a big commitment, but you can split it between multiple people, and I think it would be substantially less for the second event. So I'll try and write something up to that effect, and we'll just leave it ongoing for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, from summarising and from my personal perspective, I think having it in another city would be hugely beneficial. So that should be our primary response. It's like, yes, we'd love somebody else to step up and run it. But having said that, there are 2 variations on a backup option that we could consider later down the line. I think the main key thing that we should do is make sure that there is another one. Because if we make it a one-off and it never runs again, then that's hugely impossible to start again. Like, we just won't get enough momentum to start it again. So it's key that we at least give it another nudge, another try. But yeah, primarily we should get somebody else to run it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, I think.
Okay, apart from that, I did want to cover off our annual return, but I need Alex around to actually talk through that as a finance secretary, as a treasurer, sorry. So I don't have that to run through. There's also a couple of issues that Alex has raised. Actually, one of them we could probably talk about is around the transcription of the JSNZ Con videos.
That was actually on hold pending finding out if we had leftover money, from my recollection. So it sort of does flow on from the financial discussion, unfortunately.
Okay, and I don't think there's anything else new. So does anybody else have any issues that they'd like to raise at the committee level at this point?
Just looking at the notes from last time, we talked about the AGM. Is there anything else we need to discuss there?
Yeah, so that's what I was hoping that Alex would be around. So I will put it on myself so I'll take accountability for making sure that we, by next month, know what we've got to call, what the results are, and at least 2 of us know, so that we can present to the committee rather than having to rely on Alex doing all that work, which I feel like he's obviously drowning under at the moment. So we need to make sure that so that's shared. So I'll make sure I'm accountable for that one, and I'll take that on. So by committee meeting next month, I'll make sure we know where we're at, and then we'll call an AGM from there. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yes.
We just need to make sure that when we do the AGM announcement, we're giving people the requisite time from our documentation, but yes. Otherwise it sounds fine.
Yes, so everybody will be up for re-election if they want to be. Obviously, apart from that, we'll work out the requisite time for people to actually vote. I think the voting system last year worked relatively well. I think with a good enough communication and strategy around that, then we can run a very similar system this year. Would anybody have any disagreement to that?
Sounds okay.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds fine.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll get together hopefully in a bigger committee meeting next month. But until then, unless anybody else has anything to add, we'll call this a very short committee meeting, which is useful. It's kind of nice.
Just looking through the issues, I think there were maybe some things that we talked about last month that just haven't been updated. So I'm going to make a note to myself and try and go through these at some point this week and just put a few comments on so we can get a few things closed off.
Yeah, I think maybe making a note the week before in the committee channel on Slack, we should maybe think about having a flag in the sand that we say week before the committee meeting, we actually go through all those issues and make sure they're all up to date and tagged appropriately. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Thanks everybody for sparing some time on your Sunday evening.
Thanks.
And I'll let you all get back to it.
Thanks.
No worries. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Bye.